On today's Community Wednesday, let's break down the PP19 Bizon. The Modern Warfare PP19 has never really been a popular weapon, but lately, it's been seeing a lot more use. This is thanks to the patch that finally fixed the damage values to make the left side of the body equal the right side of the body. And on top of that, it was slightly reworked to be a little bit more consistent. But after this, let's see if it's actually viable in today's meta. In this build, we'll be using the monolithic suppressor, 8.7-inch polygonal barrel, GI mini reflex, Corvus skeleton stock, and stippled grip. So let's check out the stats, starting with mobility. It's got a pretty good ADS time of 210 milliseconds, and a reload and reload add time of 2.43 seconds from empty and 2.11 if you leave one bullet in the mag, which is pretty decent considering its magazine size is 64. Its movement and sprint speeds are pretty good for Modern Warfare weapons, still not as good as Cold War though, and its ADS strafe speed is above average, which is great. Its sprint out and attack sprint out times are also really great at 80 and 170 milliseconds. Its stability of 2T isn't the greatest for long range, but it is serviceable. But with its bullet velocity of 625 meters per second, this does make it usable at medium range. And lastly, its rate of fire is at an average 10.87 rounds per second or 652 rounds per minute. So it gets a mobility score of 41. Its recoil is a bouncy diagonal line that just kinda stops after 20 rounds. During the initial 30 shots, it's better to use it around 30 meters, but if you can wait till it's after 20, you can use it all the way up to 40, or even longer. But as you can tell, it's got a lot of visual recoil, which makes it harder to use as a sniper support weapon. So it gets a recoil score of 31. Now for its damage. It has a drop off at 18 and 29 meters. In the first damage range, in 250 HP modes, it's gonna get a great headshot TTK with an average TTK anywhere else in the body. But if you get in one headshot, it'll reduce your shots to kill by 1, which will give you an extremely great TTK, making it an excellent choice for CQB. In the second and third damage ranges, it's gonna get really non-competitive TTKs. And even if you get one headshot to reduce your shots to kill by 1, it's still not gonna be very competitive whatsoever. So even though it's gonna be very consistent, you do not want to be shooting someone for 1.24 seconds to down them. It's clear that this weapon is designed for close quarters, not as sniper support. In 300 HP modes, it's gonna get an average TTK across the board in the first damage range. In order to reduce your shots to kill by 1, you're gonna need 2 headshots. And the second and third damage ranges are gonna be the same as with 250. It's not gonna be competitive at all. So it gets a damage score of 36.74. And when we add up all the categories, it gets a final score of 108.74. This is a pretty low score for an SMG, but it kinda makes sense why. It is highly specialized. It's got pretty great mobility and a decent mag size, but it's basically only usable in the first damage range. This weapon is very forgiving in the sense that you can hit anywhere in the body and get an average TTK. Of course, you can get a competitive TTK by getting 1 or 2 headshots in depending on the mode, but even then, you may not be getting the same mobility as other weapons from Cold War and Vanguard. So if you want a reasonably easy to use weapon that doesn't punish you for hitting limb shots, this may be a good choice. However, once you get used to those upper torso and headshots, it's probably better to move on to a more mobile and better TTK weapon. Even something like the Cold War Bullfrog would be an upgrade for longer ranges. But that was the PP19 Bizon. Have you used it recently? And if so, what do you think? And if there's any weapon, build, or part of the game you want me to break down, let me know and see it on the next Community Wednesday. Thanks for watching.